This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, welcome everyone to Go Figure podcast. We have the wonderful Wendy Fortino on today. We have just been chatting for 45 minutes online. Wendy actually thought we were already recording. We have been great.
Sorry, Wendy.
There was a couple of false starts today. Wendy's fault, my fault, links not being sent, them not being able to see each other, but we're finally here, which is wonderful, and we're super.
It's all my fault. You could tell it.
It's Wendy's fault. But we're super excited to have Wendy on. Wendy is an Olympian with the Ifbb NPC league, and she is a one-stop shop with Cyber Body Shop, a coaching as well, and she is one of the hosts on Fem Flex Friday, which is one of my favorite all-time TV shows. So definitely girl crushing over here. I feel very much excited, privileged, honored, humbled to have Wendy on. And I guess we're going to go through today a little bit about Wendy, and she's going to discuss, how she got started in the industry and where she is today. And we've got some pretty exciting topics we'd love to have a chat about. And it's just going to be an organic flow. So we could be starting, opening loops and going in all sorts of different directions, but let's get it started. Wendy, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Of course. Thank you for having me. We've already had our little girl talk, so I'm excited to continue.
Yeah. So, Wendy, tell us a little bit about how you got started in this sport. Like, did you start out were you always a sporty athlete growing up, or did it just start, what got you to this point where you're now, it's your life?
Yeah, it really is. It's kind of crazy how that works, I was, I feel like I'm sorry, if anybody's watching this who's already heard my story, just bear with me here. I feel bad. I tell the story a lot, but I think I'm refining my story. I think I'm tapering it down so it's not so long-winded. But basically, I was a track athlete. I used to be a gymnast, and then I was a track athlete. And after college, I started running professionally. And in 2008, I was training for the Olympic trials in the 800, and I actually had just met my husband. We had been dating for like a month, and I got a stress fracture in my foot, and it was like a month and a half before the Olympic trials. And I remember coming out of the doctor's office, and he was actually preparing for a bodybuilding show. And I remember coming out, and I was so devastated. I was so bummed out. And I remember calling him, and he was a personal trainer at a private training studio. And I was like, I'm so bummed out. And I was like crying. I'm like, I have a stress fracture in my foot. I knew it. And he's like, just come over here. Let me put you through a workout, get your mind off of everything. So I get over there. And the gym that he was training at, it was called Ray's Built Tough Gym. At the time, there were not a lot of pros, period. I mean, the only divisions that existed were figure and fitness and women's bodybuilding. That was it. And there was just, if there was a pro in your area, it was just like a really big deal. Not like it's not anymore, but it was different. You know what I mean? Yeah. It was so difficult to get your pro card. And if you knew a pro, it was a big deal. Ray owned the gym, and he was a pro. And when I got there, I remember that him and then Hong Arsenis, she was a top figure pro at the time. And they were like, she should do a show. She should do San Francisco. She should do a show. And my husband, he was my boyfriend at the time. He was like, why don't you just, let's get you ready for the show, and let's just have some fun. I'm like, okay. I didn't really take the diet that seriously. I was kind of like, I'm just going to do this and pass the time until my foot gets better, and then I'm going to get back to it. And sure enough, I just had something to focus on. And I did the San Francisco Championships, and I won the overall in the figure division.
Wow.
And I remember thinking,
oh, the goosebumps.
Yeah. And I just remember thinking, I'm so sorry. I dropped something on the I just remember thinking, okay, I think I just found something that I really enjoy, and I could kind of close a chapter that is kind of telling me it needs to be closed and open a new one. And that's what I did. And then I just, and then when my foot healed, I actually decided to try fitness. I did. So my second, Yeah. So my second show that I did the figure division and the fitness division. And it was cool because I had just gotten a job. I had just gotten my job at Stanford. And the assistant gymnastics coach at Stanford, he helped me train. So I would go into the gym and I would, when they were not having gymnastics practice, and like 4 or 5 days a week, he would work with me one-on-one and help me get skills and help me. And I had that whole gym to access to be able to work on my skills and stuff like that. So I did compete in fitness, and I won, I did really well, but I realized it was probably stupid because I had just gotten off of injury after injury with track. And here I was trying to like flip on these like makeshift stages that had like nails poking up. I'm like, this doesn't really seem like a great transition for me to do. Like here I am, and old, like 25 is old for a gymnast, even though all the top Olympians in fitness are like in their 30s and 40s now. But at the time I was like, none of the people at the top in fitness used to be gymnasts. And I think that's the secret. If my body was already so banged up, and so I just, I didn't do fitness anymore. I just continued doing figure. Yeah. And then that was pretty much how everything got started,
Wow. So you've done like you started in 2008, I think you were saying off air before, and then in 2011 you got your pro card. Okay, so
yes.
In terms of like starting to pro card, how many shows did it take you to work through because that's not like overnight. It's not like a 12-month boom, you're there. Yeah.
Well, at the time you had to win. There were only some shows where you could win by winning your class, but a lot of pro qualifiers, you had to win the overall. It was a lot. I mean, it was harder. There's more people competing now, so I don't know if I could say it was harder because with more people competing, you know what I mean? You play the numbers game or whatever. But I had won the overall at every show that I competed in as an amateur, and then my first national show in 2009, I thought, I'm going to walk in here and I'm going to get my pro card. It's going to be like, I'm going to be one of those people that gets it on the first try. And I got 6th in my first national show.
Wow.
And you know what?
Right.
Here's the thing.
Right. Yeah.
I think you have to get defeated in order to become, like, so many people, they get rewarded. They don't ever lose. And then like, you have to feel that. You have to be able to fight past that in order to continue getting better. So it's always a blessing whenever whenever the world tells you like you're not as good as you think you are. That's your humble pie that you need in order to go back to the drawing board. Because the fact of the matter is I wasn't putting into it what I think I could have, but I was being rewarded for, less than best effort, right? So then that was what I needed. I needed to be humbled. And so then I came back and the next year and I'm like, I was even better. And I'm like, I'm going to get my pro card this time. And I took 4th. I did the USA again. I did the USA Championships in 2009. Then I did the USA Championships in 2010. I got 4th. And then I was bummed out, of course. And then in 2011, I'm like, I'm coming back and I'm going to do this again. I'm going to go for it. And then I got 2nd place at national championships. And I'm like, okay, which would have gotten me a pro card these days, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't.
Back then it wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, at that time, 2nd place wasn't a pro card. So then I did NPC Universe and I took 4th. And I remember thinking, I am just never going to get my pro card. This is like just never going to happen for me. I think, 3 weeks later was the USA Championships. And I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna, and by the way, I'm 5 feet tall and I was always in the A class. And so in the A class, I always looked like I was in the wrong class because I was always so much bigger than everybody else. And it was really bizarre. People would be like, she's in the wrong class. And I was like the shortest one. My husband told me it's because I have a small head. I don't know, maybe that's true.
That's a typical male thing to say. That's such a male thing to say. Thank you, honey.
I used to get mad at him, but now there's all these apps where people are shrinking their heads. So I thought maybe that's a good thing because all these people want to shrink their heads now. So maybe it's good. I don't know. Now I take it as a compliment when he says that because you know the whole head shrinking phenomenon people have these days. But but then I 3 weeks later was the USA Championships and I almost didn't do it, but I just pulled myself together. I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna give it one more shot. Yeah. And so I, you know, the judges were always telling me, tone down too much muscle, tone down too much muscle. I'm like, geez, I was barely lifting weights. I was like, I'm just doing cardio, just trying to like tone it down. And I go out there and I won my class. And I was so excited because I got my pro card and then I was getting ready to go for the overall. This was in the 2011 USA Championships. Already having my pro card, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, like for the first time, I get to go on stage with girls who are bigger than me. And now I get to really pose. And so for the first time in my whole career, I went on the stage in the overall and I was just like, bam, and I just opened it up so big and I was on the outside and they put me right to the middle. And then I won the overall and I was so excited. It was the best. And that was 5 tries and any one of those, it could have been a quit. Like I could have quit if I, you know, after the 1, 2, 3, I mean, there's always those thoughts, you know, but then because I just came back and I'm like, I'm just going to go for it again. And I'll never forget that. That was really, really
that
awesome.
gave me goosebumps.
I've got goosebumps as well.
Such a beautiful story.
And those national shows that you were trying for, that wasn't even including the other shows that you were doing, you know, those, you know, like all together, like that's incredible. You know, Rose and I were having a little bit of a like similar situation as yourself too, Wendy, where we're like, you know, it took me 51 shows. 51 shows.
It doesn't matter. Hey, you know what?
I think it highlights that very important point where, you know, you were saying a lot of girls now, they seem to want this, the pro card really fast. They want it. Okay, I've just entered the sport and now I want my pro card. So what would your, I guess, you know, your story highlights that it does take time.
Yeah. Like the thing is I know that feeling, that gut wrenching feeling where you just feel like you get off the stage and you feel so deflated, you feel so defeated. But the reality is that never stops. I mean, every time that you have a high, the next one is a major low. And it's like, that's how life is. That's how it is when you're, you know, running after your goals. And I mean, you always have to look at, and I know this sounds so Pollyannish, but it's true. You have to look at every time you get defeated, you have to look at it like it's a sign from the universe. You know, like you are meant to have that defeat and you're supposed to come out of it and learn something from it. And that is exactly what has always happened with me. You know, it's like every time I've had like a really bad, you know, performance, or I haven't done the way that I want to, I've done really bad. It's like the next one was always the best. Like even this was like not this past pro win, but the pro win I had to get to the 2021 Olympia, it was like, I went to the Chicago Pro, I remember in 2020, and that was a qualifier for the 2021 Olympia. But I went there and I remember I was so confident going into it, but I ended up getting 11th place. And that is, that is like, I'm used to getting like in the first call out. And so like 11th place was horrible, right? It was horrible. I mean, there were a lot of girls in the show, but I mean, that was just like, I mean, I'm like, shoot, if I was at the Olympia, I would have got my butt kicked, obviously, because like I can't even. So the next week though was another pro show that I had already planned on doing. I had already signed my contract for it. And it was going to be like all the same people who had just come from the Chicago, because we're all fighting for these last spots on the Olympia stage, right? Yeah. And I went into that and I studied every single thing about my performance, and I changed my suit. I worked on my posing. I came in a little bit tighter, like every day. It was only 1 week I had between those 2 shows, but every single day I studied every single detail, and I came in at my best and I ended up winning that show. And that was only 1 week
Oh,
later.
that's
And the
amazing.
improvement,
Yeah.
just 1 week, it's like you don't know what you're capable of, but when you like decide that it's up to you to improve rather than blaming everything else, right? Like, because you could say, oh, it's not fair, or the judge didn't like me, or oh, like, you know, I was the best, but like they just didn't see it, and you can go back and forth with all this kind of stuff. Or you could put your head down and focus and say, what do I need to study, and how do I need to become the best version of myself, and what do I need to do to have the edge on everybody else, because I'm going to win this show. And I don't care what anybody thinks going into this show, if they're counting me out, like, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm going to win the show. And like, what do I need to do? You know what I mean? And it's
mindset of a champion. That is the mindset of a champion.
Level of accountability, isn't it? Like, accountable, you're definitive, and you're envisioning exactly what it is you want. You're not necessarily sitting there going, oh, what if it? You're not looking at the glass half empty going,
that's right,
I'm going to put all my eggs in one basket right now, and you know, and I'm going to win this show because I've already won it.
That is so, you just said something so true. I think a lot of people come out of situations and they're like, what was it? And they focus on like minutia, like these little tiny things, like, you know, what did they like about her? And they make it personal almost, you know, like as if it's a personal decision, like there's a rubric where judges are like deducting points off of you. You know, I mean, the reality is you're on stage with a bunch of girls and the judges have a score sheet with everyone's name, and they're just going 1, 2, 3, 4. Like they don't care enough about any one person. They're just looking up, looking down and going 1, 2, you know what I mean? So when you take the personal feelings out of it, you go, what do I have to do to be the one that stands out? Not necessarily what do I don't have that they don't like. It's like, what do I need to do to stand out so that when they're going 1, 2, 3, I'm the 1, 2, 3, you know?
That's such an amazing approach to it, and it actually has paid off for you. You kind of touched on about your mindset to like believing, you know, actually it was like you manifested that by just that constant, like, I'm not going to blame anyone, and I'm just going to have self-belief, and I'm going to win it.
Oh yeah. You have to take it 100%. It has to be on you. And it doesn't matter if it's fair or not. I mean, my husband told me this quote, and I think it's so true. Like, even if it's not your fault, it's still your problem. You know, if it's not, even if something outside of your control happens, if it's something that you have to deal with, you have to deal with it. There's no amount of, you know, thinking about all that other stuff that doesn't that doesn't help you move forward. It's not going to do it for you. You know, like, you absolutely have to decide either you're going to do it or you're not, you know, and taking that responsibility and deciding to going into it, coming out of it. I think people like misconstrue this too, because I think that when you come out of something and you're not happy with how you did and you look at the positive, I think some people might look at that like, oh, like, how are you happy with not winning? I mean, I'm the kind of person who's hard on myself. No, I mean, everyone's hard on themselves the day of, okay? But when you put in the work leading up to the show, you've pretty much already won, right? I mean, you've already won. And I you know, I don't mean that to sound like, you know, like it doesn't matter if you win, because you're thinking about winning all the way up. That's why you're winning, right?
Yes.
And if things don't go your way, the people who have put in all the work tend to be the least discouraged and the most proactive about the next step. The people who did not put in the work tend to need that you know, win in order to, you know, have confirmation of how badass they are, because without that win, they don't have the weeks, the days and months leading up to that ultimate day. They need that. So those people tend to be the hardest on themselves, right? Like, I'm just like the kind of person no, we're all hard on ourselves. But when you do the work and you know that you put everything into it that you could have, but you know you could always do better, because we all can. You're proactive about that next step, you know?
Absolutely.
It's powerful, isn't it? It's like leaving no stone unturned, and we've all been guilty as charged, where we had a conception where we want to win, but we know within ourselves, it's like an energy that, you know what, you didn't give it your all. Whether it was you didn't give it mentally, you didn't give it all spiritually or emotionally or physically or nutritionally, you weren't on point, you know, you didn't practice your posing enough. So we all know that from personal experience, and it's every single time you've done well, Wendy, or Rose as well, or myself, we've not left any stone unturned. We knew.
That's right.
Yeah.
You kind of know somewhere in your mind, I've done the work. I've put the work in. And I'm gonna get the result, you know?
It's so true. It's so true. We're all so passionate. I could tell we all have like this like excited energy. It's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, it's so good talking to pro athletes like yourself, because in Australia we are very insulated, and we're a little bit away from the scene in the US, and so for us girls here in Australia, you guys are larger than life. You know, you're the pros that we've all followed, and you know, we've watched your journeys. But to see how approachable and humble you are is just a testament, I think, to the mindset that is behind a champion. You know,
absolutely.
Yeah, you know, and the top athletes that we've spoken to seem to have, you know, that similar mindset. It's this kind of
it's like humility, isn't it? It's like
and
well, we've been humbled, you know, so many times. You know, to become a champion, you have to have so many slices of humble pie. It's not even funny. You know, you come in to the mix brand new and you think that you're like, you know, queen of the earth, and then you get like toned down majorly, like over and over and over again, and you either quit or you keep going and you get stronger. And that's, like you said, that's what happens. You know, that's what you're creating, that version of yourself through all of the defeats. That's what really molds a person's character. I try to reserve judgment on a person's character until I see how they respond to a really big defeat, because that's what I feel like really can truly, it's a definitive moment for any human, is to be majorly defeated and humbled, and then come back from it. That's when you really learn about a person's character, you know?
Oh, that's so true.
And that's so powerful as well. And I think that's what really makes a champion, is how they handle their defeats, is how they handle their feedback and the criticisms, and when the chips are low and, you know, and they want to quit. Like, that is what makes a champion, you know. And it's, you know, previous to this, like Rose and I, you know, were like, especially myself, I had like this preconception that maybe Wendy might not be approachable, maybe Bolyana, or, you know, even Sid that we had a chat with, or, you know, and Autumn, maybe they're not approachable because, you know, they're, you know, bodybuilding royalty, they're Olympians, they're what have you. And I was so wrong. So wrong with that. And
you were so wrong. No.
So wrong. And this is it, right? It's like, you know, and everyone that we've spoken to has been so incredibly approachable, generous with your time, and free giving. And I think because we've got this like ironhood, this, you know, sisterhood, and, you know, we are a minority of the world's population, you know, and we really want to come together and support each other and uplift each other, but also be there to educate, learn, and understand that, you know, getting anywhere in life, hun, is not about creating this illusion where you're better than anyone else, or, you know, you have a sense of entitlement or anything like that. That is the complete opposite of anyone who's ever been successful, in my personal experience.
It has to be.
You're gonna go. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I was just saying it, you know, it has to be you against you in a sense.
Definitely. Yeah, I was just gonna say that you guys are gonna have to watch the episode dropping today for FemFlex Friday, is about like the body positivity movement, but me, Linda, Whitney, and Camille, we all share personal stories about like our personal experience with like body shaming, and just how I think we wanted to share all of this, because if you're feeling like you're alone, or you feel like you're isolated or you're insulated, and you're like in this really like rare group because you guys are super fit, super beautiful. I'm sure you guys have haters and people who are jealous of you when you go into the gym because you don't look like anybody else. But it's cool because like that's what we're like sharing all this information, because we want to bring everyone in and open our arms up and say like, let's all share what our experience is and our stories, and know that we're all in it together, you know? And I think that you guys will enjoy the episode that we have posting today.
I did see the little like snippet.
There was a snippet, yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's my Saturday night watch.
Yes.
I'm like, because you're a day behind us, or 17 hours behind us.
Oh yeah, it's Saturday for you right now.
Saturday, yeah.
Watch the snippet where
in
you're
Australia,
talking about.
it's Femflex Saturday.
It's Saturday, that's it.
Yeah, but I watched the snippet where you were talking about the mother and the daughter walking out of the gym and saying, I never want you to look like that.
Like that, yes.
And I think every figure girl has had those comments made towards them, and so it's such a great forum to actually bring women together and to say, look, this is actually, look at these beautiful women, look at how strong, powerful, independent these women are, and to break down those misconceptions and have body positivity around women with muscle.
Well, yeah, and there's two parts to it, and without context, it's hard to see that that's what I was talking about. But the first part of this is like from just a human standpoint, like just having the compassion for each other, saying something out loud about someone else's body, I don't care what they look like, is rude. And I think that people don't look at certain people, they think don't have feelings or don't, and so the reality is we're all human, like words hurt all of us. And so I think people are looking at the conversation more like, well, maybe because I saw one comment, somebody had said, well, she has a right to, want to look the way that she wants to look. I mean, it's not right for her to impose those beliefs on her daughter, but I mean, she's free to openly speak her mind about how she wants. It's like, yeah, everyone has the right to look the way that they want, or aim for achieving what they want to achieve. But that's not the point of this. The point of this is, if somebody walks up to you and just says something really mean to you, it's not your job to be understanding about their feelings, right? That's rude. That, it's like somebody walking up to anyone saying, hey, I don't want to look like that. If I walked up to somebody who was overweight or, looked a certain way, and I said, I don't like that look, it's not their responsibility to understand my feelings. You can absolutely feel the way that you want, but my point is for all of us to have the decency and the compassion to be understanding, because I see a lot of that. I see online bullies and trolls, they say things about women, and they're the ones that are made out of glass houses, the people who would be the most hurt and the most affected by someone saying something like that to them. They're always the most affected by negativity, are thinking that the people they're spewing negativity to don't have feelings or whatever. I mean, it's a source of narcissism, I suppose. But that's really the point of it. It's not whether or not it's right for the mom to like muscular women. She could absolutely not like my body. You're free to like it or not like it, right? But to openly say that, and I've developed a very hard shell. It doesn't affect me anymore, but it used to when I was like 20, when people said mean things. So as somebody who wants to be a role model to young women, I guess I just wanted to be relatable and say, I understand this happens to me too. We all have feelings, so we should all just have that compassion for one another. And it's not about whether you like the body or not. It's about just decency and compassion.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I've always thought it was a strange thing that people felt it was okay to comment on a person's body. Like when would do it to me. When I first started training, I remember getting the early comments about, oh, well, you don't want to get too big, you don't want to get too muscular. And then after I'd been training for a while, it was like, oh, well, you know, you look like a man, or oh, like, you know, I appreciate
So
what
beautiful.
you
That's crazy.
I appreciate what you do, but I wouldn't want to look like you. And I always found it, I'm a bit like you, I've developed a thick skin, but I would think to myself, what, how do you think that that's okay to say to somebody like that? I used to always think, imagine if I walked up to you and said, well, you're a more curvaceous lady, and I just don't like that look. You would never say that, you know?
Oh, yeah. So and it's absolutely, everyone is free to like what they
That's
what they
right.
do or don't like. But what gets me is how they impose that openly to you, and you're supposed to just sit back and be super understanding. And people don't realize that it's not about what you like or what you don't like. It's about all of us having that compassion for each other and just being kind humans. Like, is that a
Yes.
concept? No, I guess
Just
it is.
be
I don't know.
nice. Just be a nice person. Yeah. Yeah.
Be respectful, but ultimately it's not about you. It's actually about their own insecurities, because perception is projection. It's got nothing to do with you, it's everything to do with them. So it's also and bringing those things out consciously as well. We've all got layers, okay? You know, we all come into this world and collect stuff over the years that lead us to a point where we are we have a certain perception of ourselves, and then as a result of that, we're going to projecting the, you know, that in the outer world. So if we see something that conflicts that, we're going to challenge that. It's like, it's human psychology.
Right. Well, Lisa, you're right. You're 100% right. I'm almost positive of it. But just for the sake of giving that woman the benefit of the doubt, I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt that she truly doesn't want to look like me. And with that assumption, I'm going to say that just be kind and don't be rude. I mean, you're free to think that, even though I agree with you, I don't think that it's true. I don't think that's actually how a lot of people feel. I think they convince themselves they feel that way because it's easier to kind of decide that that's how you feel than to really, you know, have those internal dialogue with yourself, the introspective conversations where you really, you know, think about what it is that you want and what makes you feel happy. It's easier to kind of deflect and, you know, but with giving her the benefit of the doubt and anybody else who feels like they just do not think that that the three of us are just the most hideous things of all time. Let's just give them the benefit of the doubt and say, you're free to feel that way. Okay. That's how you really feel. But to feel the need to walk up to our faces and let us know about that, I mean, come on, you know, like, it's not our job to understand how you feel to that extent. It's your job to deal with that feeling and make your feelings in yourself feel the way you want. That's fine. But when you walk up to somebody and you just decide to be mean, that's just unacceptable. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Just have manners. Just be, you know, have your manners and treat people with respect. And, you know, I love that message.
And this is like, you know, a great opportunity for especially our Australian viewers that, you know, maybe aren't completely aware of FemFlex Friday, which has been around for a long time, right? To say, you know, ladies, you've got to tune, even men, everyone, you've got to tune in.
Watch us. We're in it together.
It's the best. I've been loving it. It's so good to watch it, and it's all of the topics that I love. So I've just been in my element watching it, and it's you were saying before that it's gone to a slightly different format at the moment.
Table format as well. You've got to add a new segment. Like, share with us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so FemFlex Friday has been around for a long time. It typically has been like interview style. They fly in various pros and people who have, you know, maybe a story to share and have like just like a interview style conversation. Last year, they wanted to expand this idea of having more of like lifestyle content where we could reach a broader audience, you know, not just people in the bodybuilding world, but we wanted to be able to include a lot of different walks of life. And so they brought me in, myself, Camille, Whitney Jones, Kimmel Perry, Whitney Jones, and Linda Murray. And we all come to the table and we bring topics that we can have deep conversations about. We still like bring people into interviews with like Zoom calls and stuff like that, depending on what topic we are discussing. But we're able to have more of like a roundtable talk show conversation. And the idea is no matter where you're at, we want, you know, women everywhere to feel like they're a part of our world and not feel alone. You know, you could be sitting at home feeling like maybe you're insulated where you live or whatever, but when you tune into us, you could feel our energy and you could see that, you know, we're all in this together. And we really want to be able to have a wide reach and help everyone, and how everyone helps us too. I mean, when you guys tune in and you comment and you let us know how it affected you or whatever, that helps us so much, because we want to form our content around what is going to help people the most. And it's a full circle thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, love that. Such a need for it as well, because we were speaking off air that there's not much of this in the world, you know. Pretty much left upon our own devices, and you know, but we've also got, you know, I'll say we're young, we're not old, we're young, but we have a lot of experience in life, and
we're young.
we are young, and we all have a story as well. We all have a journey, and you know, no one's journey is better than anyone else's or worse than anyone else's. It's yours to own, but it's like, how do we support each other through that process? How do we help regulate ourselves mentally and emotionally and spiritually through that? And how do we grow from that as well, which is such a powerful message.
Oh, it is.
Well, two things. Number one, we're launching on Olympia TV on February 3rd.
Wow.
So right now we're under the So right now we're under the umbrella of Wings of Strength, and it's a playlist called FemFlex Friday, but they're actually migrating us over to Olympia TV, and they have a bigger vision for Olympia TV down the road, but that way it'll be accessible so much easier for everybody. And we're, you know, I forgot the second thing that I was going to say. I lost my train of thought. I'm sure I'll think of it. Maybe if you ask a question, I'll think of it again.
Yeah. So obviously, it going to the Olympia TV as well. So they're under the umbrella of Wings of Strength. They're going to be able to reach a larger market and audience, and that's really interesting, because you said, like, you know, you want to like diversify it. When you mean a larger audience, are you just talking people in fitness, or are you talking people not in fitness? Are you just talking women particularly? Like, expand what you mean by a broader audience.
I think men and women could get a lot out of it for sure. I think we're speaking about, you know, speaking directly to women about issues that women face, but I think that my husband watches it and he loves it. He enjoys watching it too. So it's not just for women, but it is really, you know, it really does like speak directly to women. And the range is really broad, because, you know, all of us on the panel, we're all pros. You know, Camille is a top 7 bikini Olympian. Whitney is a Miss Fitness Olympia 3 times. Linda is 8-time Miss Bodybuilding Olympia, Miss Olympia, you know, and, you know, I have been on the Olympia stage multiple times. So it's like, we are really able to speak to all levels of bodybuilding, but we're also mainstream. You know, we also really reach out to the brand new gym goer, somebody who's like just coming into the gym. We don't want to be off-putting to that person either. One thing that we talk about in like the episode that's dropping today, I just want to like, little spoiler alert, something that is really
first time on
tell
here.
me if you Lisa, as a coach, tell me if this is something that you have dealt with, because this is something that we have dealt with, and it's interesting if you give me your perspective. But you know, you have a client, you know, under your guidance, they lose a lot of weight, and after they lose weight, all of a sudden a lot of their friends that they had start to kind of like turn on them, and their newfound sense of self turns against them, and they have this rubber meets the road moment where they're uncomfortable with that. They are being pulled in these different directions because on this side of the coin is their friends that are like, come over here, eat all the food and drink all the alcohol and have fun with us. Don't be not fun. Don't be somebody who we don't want to be friends with anymore. I mean, I'm just speaking general terms, right?
Yeah.
And then on this side of the fence, new lifestyle that they're loving, that they want to be a part of, and they're torn. And when people make big transformations, a lot of times they're met with a lot of backlash, and you see this in like the world of celebrities like Jonah Hill and Adele. They lost a lot of weight, and their communities that supported them turned against them. So that is something that we see happen a lot, right? And that we want people to feel welcome coming in, knowing they're going to have a soft spot to land. So Lisa, is that something you have found in your coaching?
I'm so glad you brought this up, because there's actually a segment in my programming. It's called the Mind Body Breakthrough Experience. This is for like the general population fitness.
Oh, that's awesome.
And part of it is there's the behavior change model, and the behavior change model is going through a 4-step process, which is the law of cause and effect and what happens. And then we go through self-respect versus disrespect, which is identifying your core values, who you are, what you stand for, how that's going to influence your circle, because depending on how you vibe, it also depends on your tribe, basically. And what does that mean in terms of your current relationships, people, places, and things? Husbands, your brothers, your sisters, your mum, your dad, the generation where they're at, and how it's not about them changes, but how do you support yourself, and how can you educate the environment around you and the journey that you're going on, and what that means. And then it's left upon their own devices. And then through there, we go through a next stage, which is called emotional and physical commitment. And it's really about understanding that, in life, in order to be successful in anything you need both those elements. You can't just be physically committed and go through the mechanics and not have heart and soul into it and purpose and meaning, because you're going to be met with incredible amounts of resistance and keep creating the same loop. And then at the same time, you can't think yourself thin or think yourself fit and just sit there and do nothing. You need both elements. And so we go through a process of delegating, deleting, and dealing things in our life. And then step 4 is consistency, which is about creating a reputation where you can count on yourself over time, because your mind, your body, they're both connected, and one needs to trust the other. And when you're in that real place of feeling really grounded and really sounding yourself, and like there's no voids that need to be filled or missed, or that you grab off anyone, you're okay with you, and you're okay with how people accept you. And that comes with, you would understand this, Wendy, and with wisdom and insight. So I don't teach any of that. So to answer your question, yes, I saw it so much so that I actually implemented a process to work them through that, because health is not one-dimensional. It's mental, it's emotional, it's spiritual, it's physical, it's nutritional, it's hormonal, it's all of the above. And it's about recontextualizing that. Yeah. Sorry, I just got real passionate.
Man, I have met my match in energy and passion over here. If it's even possible, I think I have met my match.
Oh goodness. I think it's the law of attraction, Wendy. It's just, and I got that off you even before I was a thing on your radar, and I was like, oh, I feel like I just resonate with you, because you don't have to speak it.
Felt each other's energy. It was just magical.
It's just magical. You just feel it. So, and that was the same with Rose and I. We're neighbors. We've known each other in the industry for 12 years. And and the silver lining of COVID brought us together, didn't we?
It did, because we live in different states, but
How did you guys link up? I would love to know.
Yeah, so we live in different states, but we'd met each other at shows, and I'd always, when you get that impression from someone that you just meet them and there's a connection, there's a I I like her. She's nice. She's a good person. I can tell she's a good person. And then so we'd remained in contact on Instagram and things from meeting at shows and just kind of chatting backstage. But COVID, yes, when COVID happened, I guess my sense of isolation was even more, and you know, I'd gone through a lot of personal issues in my personal life. So I was going through major change, feeling very alone. And Lisa just messaged one day out of the blue. I still say that she is woo-woo. She's got woo-woo things going on. She can pick up on the vibes. And you know, we began talking and just supporting each other through the lockdowns, because you know, Lisa was in Melbourne, so she was locked down. The most extensive lockdowns, I guess, of you know, pretty much anywhere in the world. So that's kind of how we've just, you know, developed a really deep friendship through the sport. You know, and we've both been saying that, haven't we, Lisa? Like, we've met so many, the people we've kept in our lives, we've met through the sport.
Oh yeah, I mean, you have that common bond, you know. But you ladies are so sweet and so have such like open hearts. I could see you just having that. You guys are just have like a magical kind of aura about you. So I think that you guys are gonna have a really good podcast.
Yeah,
we feel like, and it's so strange because we always say things have conspired to bring us together, and I mean, gosh, we could go deep with all the stories that we have of how our connection has built and developed over time. But I think you're right. We've got a special connection, and we're coming at this and doing the podcast from such a place of wanting to support and help women. That's why I think we resonate so much with you and FemFlex Friday and all of the things that you guys are doing as well, because we love women and we want women to feel supported and to enter this sport and to have advice and information to take them down the best, you know, the most healthy road as well. And to feel that there is this kind of community around them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you know, so yeah, our journey's been quite interesting. And for me, the nail in the coffin was when you drove all the way from Dubbo. Dubbo is like literally outback Australia, like literally like dirt roads, like just desert. Like,
yeah, I'm from the country, like real country.
Real country. She drives down 12 hours, you know, to come and watch. It was my pro debut. It was where I turned pro last year.
Oh my gosh, you guys are gonna make me cry. Oh my gosh.
She made me cry when she went pro. I literally have never done this. I was in the crowd and I was like,
oh my god,
and then she wins, and I just like sort of like I started crying, and I just like
you're making me cry.
And I ran out the back, and you know, here she is, the little pocket rocket.
We hadn't seen each other since 2019 when we were on stage together because of all the lockdowns. We were well, just like Rose, I had gone through a very trying time, you know, in my life, and I'm a blank canvas. I separated from my ex-husband. My son was born with half a heart, Wendy, and so he had 7 open heart surgeries. Had to do cardiac arrest on him. Like
she's been through
CPR, and through that whole journey, we weren't even allowed to go to a gym. So I had to like turn my garage into a gym, and we were locked down 10 times, 300 days, over 300 days, like 2 years actually, 2 years locked down.
2 years
of lockdown. So Kai's in hospital, having surgery. I'm in the hospital ward with my booty bands and my dumbbells, training while looking after him. And then in between that, separating from my ex-husband to get to this point where I could give it a good crack on stage. And the fact that I had like the fact that I had won, it was beyond, I couldn't believe it. And it was just like that moment where I fell to the ground, wasn't it? Like,
she just felt, and it was like, I get emotional thinking about it because, you know, I've been with her through her journey. And
it does make
it's just, she is a champion, you know, an absolute champion.
Make me cry. But yes, it was.
Oh my God, Lisa, I'm glad. Well, now that I know that, I'm definitely not going to say something I was going to say. That is totally not. I mean, I was going to say that we all have been through so much that we only know our relative. You know, we only know relative to what we've been through, how hard something is. Like when somebody feels like they're working so hard in the gym, like relative to what they know, they may feel like they're putting in more work than anyone else, but they only know, you know, you don't know what, you know, how many levels you have in you until you keep going. And same with life events, right? I mean, everyone feels like what they've gone through is like the most traumatic, but you only know relative to what you know. So anyway, that is completely like null and void after hearing your story, because I think you pretty much win the whole thing with your story, and it makes me feel so just proud to know like more about you and just the type of person that you are. I think that it takes a really special person to be able to fight through what you've had to fight through, and that is not to be taken lightly. And I don't think that, you know, I don't know if I would say I don't think many people could get through that. I think we would all be forced to if we had to, but to get through it the way that you were able to get through it and rise up to challenges the way that you did, I think is pretty special. And it's definitely rare. You know what I mean?
That means a lot. You know, it's one of those things where you can sink or you can swim and make it and use it to drive you, to fuel you, to, you know, to change you and to be the best. Like for me, my biggest motivation was my son, and it's showing him that no matter what life throws at you, you never quit. You can fall to the ground as many times as you want to, but you get the fuck back up. And you get back onto that bus and you drive. And even if it's only one step, even if it's only like, you know, for 1 minute, you can pull over. You can take as many rests as you want, but you keep moving forward. And
how is your son doing now?
He's doing great. Like, he's a little pocket rocket. He's 7 years old. We've just had our first holiday overseas since COVID in Thailand for 3.5 weeks. So
and he's doing well?
He's doing well. He was you know, he was only given a 1% chance of survival through 1% chance of survival. And I've got goosebumps now. He's 7 years old and he's defied all odds.
And he's just the most beautiful little boy. He's light. He is light. That's how I would describe him.
I have not met him, but I can only imagine. Wow. Because it takes a fighter to go through that. He has to be a fighter because, you know, he's had to fight through that, and he had to be strong and not give up on himself in order to get through all of that. So that takes a lot of heart, no pun intended.
we always say that about him, though, don't we, Lisa?
Yeah,
we might have half a heart. We have more heart than anyone.
Yeah, exactly. And it's bringing back to what you said. It's like from the greatest, you know, most epic setbacks, fails, whatever you want to call it in life, comes the complete opposite. You know, Newton's law, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. And that's exactly what it was. That was like that in action, basically. And so like, and it's a real humbling experience. And, you know, so
people ask, you know, what, you know, people talk a lot, toss the word motivation around, you know, like what gets you motivated or whatever. I think everybody who's ever had success in fitness has asked this question, like, how do you stay so motivated? And I have thought about this, and I actually thought of a really good concept when it comes to motivation that I really put thought into what times I've been the most motivated and what times I've been the least motivated. And this totally goes along with your story, but the times that I have been the most motivated, there was a really strong like antagonist and protagonist in my story, right? And when you have something that is your antagonistic, something that's pulling you down, like some life event, something maybe going through a divorce, you know, something happening with your family, maybe something that's like rocking your world, right? Getting over a bad injury, whatever it is, right? There is like this like crazy thing that you have to fight through. And when you're pushing yourself and you're training for this goal, right? It's like you're thinking about that antagonist, and you are the protagonist in this story, right? And when you fight to overcome it, you feel so victorious, to the point where when I'm the least motivated, it's like I don't have like a really good antagonist. And so by recognizing this, if I don't have one, I will like manufacture something. I will
love it. I love it.
That's such a good, oh my God, yes. I love that.
Oh my goodness. That's a great one.
Like, and it's true, because you have to get to that level of grit. There has to be something that you feel like you're fighting through. And the people that are achieving the most, it is so across the board on this, but they're typically going through some big life event, and it drives them like no other, right?
Oh, yes.
And it's interesting. That totally goes along the lines of your story too. You know, it's this thing that forced you to fight harder than anything would have ever forced you. You know what I mean?
You just don't know what you've got. I think you have to reach that point. You just don't know how far you can actually push yourself until you're actually presented with it. And I was like, how I got through that now, because we talk of it like it's a story, like, oh, you know, once upon a time, happily ever after. I was like, how the fuck did you do that?
You're just, the fight is so much more elevated when you have that thing that's just really pulling on you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's a story that I think is good for your listeners to hear you share. It's pretty incredible, honestly. That's a pretty incredible story.
Thank you.
And so if now you're a pro, and what's your plan? Because you look like you're super fit right now. Got your shoulders popping. Like what's on the cards for you?
I'm actually in off season, so my I pretty much stay lean all year round. So my next show, I decided to take 2 years off because I wanted to refine some things. I wanted to get some of these projects going on. I've got a relocation coming into state as well. So my next show will be in the Singapore Classic. It's the Singapore Pro in February of 24. And then I was also looking at the Triple Dynasty with Whitney, and I wanted to do that one.
Yes, you told me about that. Oh my God, that sounds awesome.
So that one, and then more towards the Olympia end as well, like putting a couple of shows there. So kind of like at the start of 24 and the end of 24, and where I land. So, but yeah, you know, Rose is going, to compete this year.
Yes.
So
Rose, what are you doing? What do you have planned?
Well, hopefully, what was it called again? It was the Legions.
Centre Podium runs them. It's I think it's that Bolyana's show as well, isn't it? Because she runs her and her partner. Yeah.
Yeah,
so because it's a good show.
Yeah, because I haven't been able to make my pro debut yet because of COVID. So I went pro in 2019 at the Arnold Classic in Australia.
Yeah.
And then I was invited the following year to compete in 2020. Yeah. And I was getting ready, and I was all ready to get on stage, and we were told, I think it was about 7 days before the show, that it was cancelled. Since then there's been no more shows.
I might be with you. I think I'm going to do that show too. It depends on how my season pans out, but I think I'm going to be doing that one.
Oh my God, I would love to meet you in person.
Yes.
I'm going to be in the backstage beach. So
Yeah, for me,
Yay!
it's just wanting to close that chapter of, you know, it took me so many years to get to pro, and then I finally get there, and I haven't been able to get on a pro stage. I just want to be able to stand on a pro stage and say, I did it.
When
I know.
I was just saying, America is so spoiled with shows every weekend. We get 2 opportunities a year
to go pro,
too
and
much,
then we
though.
don't have any pro shows.
We have no pro shows for figure, none.
I'm so sorry. That sucks.
Okay.
You guys are gonna have to create one. You guys gotta promote one.
Oh God, we would love to do that. Imagine having a pro show.
You know, I would love to do like an all-female just pro-am, you know, show one day. You know, I'd love to see it. I'd love to do that. You know,
Yeah.
So who knows what the future holds?
Who knows?
Never
what
say
the future
never.
holds.
You know,
Never.
so you're looking
You
at
said never say never, and I said never.
No, never is never.
Great
never.
minds think alike.
Yeah. So you're doing the lesions. You're thinking about doing the lesions show. Are there any other shows that you're thinking about doing next to the Olympia?
Hopefully I still have to qualify for the Olympia. The qualification just started, so I'm gonna do the NorCal, and then I'm going to do the LA, which I won last year. So that would be, if I could, like, I really want to try to win one of those shows. That's my goal. And then that would be qualifying me for the Olympia. And then I'm kind of I would want to do the Legion because it's closer to the Olympia. And I find that I just do better at shows when I have like a warm-up show, you know. Every time I've like won, it's been, you know, I had like a show right before it, and I was able really in close proximity to be able to study and dissect and just improve in a shorter period of time. When I step away from the stage longer, I feel like I'm so detail oriented, but still, and I've been doing this forever, but still, I just feel like having that warm-up show just always helps me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was a long-winded answer to that. I'm sorry.
No,
that makes
I just made the assumption that you're going to qualify.
Yes.
Thank you.
No, of course, that will happen.
I like that.
Wendy,
I like that.
Both from Rose and myself, like your physique is for us is like amazing. It's for us, it's perfection for us, because I'm like, it is so true to what figure is, and you've stayed true to yourself that whole time. You haven't. It's like you've evolved, but you've evolved your way, and that is amazing, and I love that. You know, and you can see the improvements that you make. And one of the ones, the biggest thing that I love about you are those bloody shoulders of yours, girl. Like, they are sensational. Like, you say top on stage all the time. There's something in the American water. I'm telling you right now, because no one has doubts like those American girls, like you girls here.
Yeah, so round, like so beautiful and round.
Well, thank you, ladies. Thank you. I've tried to like always try to find like exercise that hits exactly where I want to hit. And I realized that like the motion, like shoulder press is like just up and down. Like that's great for your medial delt. But I found that like a shoulder press where I come up and in just helps me hit the medial head really well. And I've noticed that's really helped me kind of like just pop on top a little bit more. You know what I mean? Like it's the motion from here to the middle, you know, like this whole range. And I do that better with cables, right? Or dumbbells, but I don't know. Dumbbells are limiting for me because I can never go as heavy as I need to go to challenge myself without feeling like awkward, because in bodybuilding, we're not really training functional muscles. We're not trying to be functional. We just need to look good. So all of my functional muscles that help me be an athlete are all atrophied, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to create the shape I want. So I'm all like awkward when it comes to using stabilizing muscle groups. So I like to stabilize myself a little bit, but I do find that the cable like help with a little bit more range helps me, you know? I don't know, just a little.
That's great tip. Thank you.
Put that one down, you know.
I know, I'm like, This afternoon I will be doing
And when after you finish a couple sets, you'll see just like there's like, you'll be like, oh,
It's just,
Oh,
it doesn't have to be much, does it? It's just that little bit, and it's just like it makes
yes.
Oh, it does. It makes a huge difference to the shoulder shape. Yes, yes.
Right.
I love your that you have the X frame too. Like it's that beautiful X frame with the beautiful taper. But then you've got the curve as well, you know, like especially your side shot. I love that. It's so feminine and you know, so beautiful.
You know, it's so interesting. I almost feel like they need like let's talk about categories. I almost feel like it would be great to have another category called classic figure. You know,
what would that look like?
That would be like, you know, like the old school, like Aaron Stearns, like the old school kind of, you know, like maybe not as big, maybe not as lean, maybe not
Tone
as
down a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, a little bit on the toned down side. I think because you've got these
like that.
You've got these two very distinctive looks, don't you? With the figure girls these days.
I feel like some of the shows, like some of the shows I've seen, I've been a bit confused as an Australian going over, thinking, okay, well, I've got to go over and what does the criteria say and what are they going to be looking for? And it's hard to kind of know where they're at, because some shows they seem to reward really hard, like really hard with the striations across the glutes, but then other shows they seem to go for the more traditional look. So yeah, when I tend to, you know, for me, striations across the glutes, I didn't think that was really figure.
Yeah. You know, it's really hard because, you know, Sandy, I have conversations with her a lot. She's the Olympia head judge, you know, and and she always says, you know, it's hard for her to explain because she never has exactly what she's looking for in front of her. Like she's like, I don't care if it's like all like the top in the Olympia or, you know, whatever. She's like, there's never like exactly what I'm looking for right in front of me, you know, but she always, you know, judges are always limited to what they have in front of them. So you could have a girl who has the best shape and the best structure, but maybe she's like a little bit too soft, you know, and maybe that's a fan favorite because maybe she has all the pieces to the puzzle. And then you have this person who maybe has a little bit too much muscle, is a little bit like overly conditioned, and the judges have to do like they have to decide like which one is just not as which one is a little bit more of what we're looking for than the other. And then people end up being super confused because when they go one direction or another, then everyone's like, well, what direction are they going? Well, you're only able to like look at it relative to the people in the show, right? And that makes it sometimes it's confusing. I would say like the worst is like when we have athletes who are competing at like a local level show, you have such a wide range of talent and ability and, you know, work ethic on that stage, and people overly analyze the results, right? I think like, you know, at a local level show, when an athlete like over analyzes it will be to their demise, because so many times the ideal physique is not rewarded because they only have like, you know, sometimes they'll have like a class of like 4 girls and they're all over the map, right? Like let's say it's like a bikini class at a local level show and there's like 4 girls in the class and the judge, you know, picks the girl with the most muscle who is the hardest, and then all the other girls are going, well, now they're going for the harder look. And it's like, no, they had 4 people to choose from, and the girl that had the most muscle and was the hardest, she was just the one that did her homework, and we had to reward her, right? So it's difficult. You know what I mean?
That makes so much sense. I'm so glad that I raised that, because it does and I think, you know, even here in Australia, we have the same thing. And you often, you know, read the comments and things, and there's people, you know, being upset about, oh, they shouldn't have won and I should have won. And you know, I know that because I know the local judging scene, that they're just judging what they can on the day with what they have in front of them.
So I think that's a really good point to make. It's kind of like, rather than saying, what are you looking for? Yes, that's part of the criteria, but
Yes.
the other part is really honing in the fact that we only can judge with what's presented on the day and what's close to that criteria. So, you know, and no one's ever going to be 100% of exactly what, you know, one judge wants.
Absolutely.
It's going to be, you know, parts and getting as close to that criteria as we can. So yeah, that was such a great point to make, because in Australia as well, we've got like, we had Gabby, like she just turned pro and she's this big, full, shapely, softer in the body, but there's just so much muscle, like really almost like the European style IFBB, like they're bigger, they're fuller, not as, you know, detailed. Whereas me, I was like diced and spliced on stage and, you know, and jam-packed, a little bit like Bolyana's kind of body when she gets real jacked. You know, and then you've got Rose, and she's like this, you know.
I'm 100 feet tall, all right? No, I'm very tall.
The most amazing structure. Like, I think you've got the best structure in this country, hands down, without a doubt. Like, the ratios are incredible. You're not someone that has a lot of like thickness or anything like that. It's more of the classic figure, but your shape and even the condition that you get into is incredible. So figure worthy, you know, but that's what I love about it, because you've got this broad.
There's a broad range.
Broadness.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what shape or size.
It really is.
Yeah.
And
the figure is unique in that. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I think you're about to say what I was about to say. So you go.
I was just going to say that figure is unique in that way. I think whenever I go on stage, there are so many different body types, and it is a unique division in that way, because I don't see that in most of the other divisions, at least at the top level. It's a very distinctive body type, right? Very distinctive body type for the bikini division, for the wellness division, for the physique division. You get to figure, and you've got kind of like this motley crew of bodies, and it's like everyone is doing their best to create that X frame using their tools, right? And it is kind of unique in that sense, you know what I mean?
But it's good too. Yeah, I love that too, because it's great, because it's sort of, that's why I'm always encouraging girls into figure, because I'm like, you can be any shape. You just, you know, you can do figure. Figure isn't just, you know, you have to be a certain height, weight, you know. They're not checking your weight on the day. They're not checking, you know, you've just got to bring what your best package is.
And
on the Olympian stage, it's like you've got, you know, I'm 5 feet tall, and Boyana's 5'2". I thought we were the same height, but I discovered she's got a couple inches on me. But you have us and Nadia, we're all like the shortest, but then all the way ranging to, you have girls on the Olympia stage who are like, you know, 5'10", 5'11". I mean, it's a huge range of heights, you know. I would say there's a lot less shorties than there are tallies, but, you know, there are some of us up there.
Well, I'm kind of like right between you and Bolyana. I'm 5'1".
Well, there you go. There you go. You still have me by an inch. So but we're all in it together. We're shorties.
Wendy, like, we could talk to you for like, I could keep going on and on and on and on and on.
I know.
We had a bit of a malfunction this morning, time zones and all the rest of it. So we're definitely going to get you back on board with us as well for another podcast as well. But you know, in closing, most importantly, and I really wanted to make a point of this, is that how can people come to you for coaching? Where can they? Your posing is amazing. Like, you're a one-stop shop. You even do hair and makeup for your clients backstage, and you've got, you know, a really well thought out, you know, comp prep process as well between yourself and your husband. So how can people, boys and girls, connect with you?
Well, you can email us directly, info@cyberbodyshop.com. Also, you can go to our website, cyberbodyshop.com, And I have a lot of digital products that I sell on the website, but you can also reach out to us for coaching through there. You could also get to know a little bit about us. We have our bios and just some videos to help you kind of get to know us. And then my polished presentation, polishedpresentation.com. Right now I just have it for bikini and figure, but I'm expanding that to include all of the divisions moving forward. But right now you can find that, and there are tutorials for everything. Makeup tutorial, posing tutorials, everything, creating your look. There's a lot of content in there to help women succeed on stage. I've had a lot of women utilize it and have success from it. So I'm trying to do everything I can to help women succeed. You know what I mean? And men, obviously. But right now I just have my product for women, you know? And then of course my Instagram is Wendy Fortino. And whenever I tell that to people, I'm not kidding you. Sometimes people will say, we'll type in Wendy and then 14-0. And I'm like, and I've had that happen so many times. So I always have to specify that it's my name. It's Wendy, Fortino.
That is hilarious.
But it is pronounced 14-0. It is pronounced that way, but it's actually, you know, it's formed with.
I love that. And so we'll definitely put that in the bio, but you know, from the bottom of our heart, we adore you. We love you here in Australia. We are so grateful that you came on to have a chat with us. And we look forward to having you on again and watching your journey, FemFlex Friday, and all the amazing athletes.
Thank you so much.
Well, ladies,
thank you. I was just saying, thank you so much for giving back to the industry, to the girls. Like as we've both said, we've both been following you for such a long time, and you know, you're giving back so much with all of the things that you just mentioned. So thank you so much.
Thank you both for giving back so much. I think it's awesome you guys are doing this podcast, and I'm proud and I'm happy to be invited and to be a part of it. And I agree, I think we could talk forever. And so you're gonna have to kick me off, but but thank you ladies both so much. I hope you have an awesome rest of your Saturday.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Wendy.
All right. Well, bye ladies.
Bye.
Bye.